Hi, I'm Aeon in this video. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to more Geometry Dash. Today, we are doing the current hardest platformer level in Geometry Dash. I Want to Be the Guy, which was controversially unrated for being too hard, and then got rated again, and a lot of people have been playing it, myself included. Today, I want to take you guys through the journey because this took me a long time, and when I say a long time, I mean a really long time. I am terrible at platformers. Fun fact of the day, I am an absolute noob when it comes to platformers. I do not play platformer games. I play RPGs, so I am terrible at this. So this level took me a grand total of 6.5 hours when everyone else is seemingly beating it in 2 hours or even an hour. I've seen some people beat it in 50 minutes. I don't know how that's even possible. I'm not gonna lie. So I want to take you guys through it. I want to talk a little bit about each and every checkpoint, each and every room, talk a little bit about difficulty, and give my final thoughts on platformer and how to approach difficulty in platformer, because I'm gonna be 100% real with you. I think it is absolutely impossible to compare platformer levels with regular levels, and then I'm gonna be showing you guys my completed runs of each individual section where I pass all the sections, right? Hopefully you guys enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell me if you guys are enjoying 2.2. How are you guys enjoying platformer? And again, enjoy the video. As for room number 1, I think this is a really rough introduction to this level as a whole, because oh my god, this first room is brutal. As I said, I spent 6.5 hours trying to beat this. 3 of those hours were in the first room, and like 95% of it was because it took me forever to be able to do the first 3 jumps consistently, because those first 3 jumps, oh my god, I have never felt so bullied by a GD level in my entire existence. They are really tight, it is complete hitbox abuse, and it is just so difficult in so many ways. Like, I can't really put my finger on what makes it as hard as it is. It's just so brutal. One thing I will say though that it does do very well is that it does introduce you to the mechanics of the robot and the slipperiness of everything in a very good way. One thing that I will give this level so much credit for is the fact that it does help you get a very good fundamental understanding of how the robot physics work. They change a little bit depending on each level. You can fiddle around with the settings of the friction, and you can use different speeds to allow for different ice physics. I want to call them ice physics because it's so slippery that I don't even know what to tell you, man. But one thing that was a consistent thing throughout my entire experience playing these levels was that for some ungodly reason, I just could not for the life of me catch a break, getting really unlucky with the last jump. With this level in particular, on the first checkpoint, the very first checkpoint, this level has 10 checkpoints, by the way. This level is 5 rooms with 2 checkpoints each. The first checkpoint being the very beginning, and then the second checkpoint being once you've passed through the first few obstacles. One thing that was a consistent thing throughout my entire experience with every single checkpoint in this level was that I would die to the last jump of each checkpoint a trillion times. I died trying to get to the very last corner of checkpoint 1 7 times, and the jump before it, I died like 23 times to. That's like 30 times to the last 2 jumps alone. No wonder it took me 3 hours, right? It's just that painfully brutal. But overall, it is just like a really massive timing gauntlet here in the very beginning. It's not the worst thing of all time, but it is a very hard introduction. I personally think that checkpoint 2 would be a much better first option because it utilizes much more mechanics. It uses jump orbs, it uses jumping over spikes, it uses hugging the wall to get more precise corner jumps. It uses turnarounds, like at the very beginning, at the very top here, after you hit the pink orb, you fall down and then go into a little corner. And I think personally, it just uses better mechanics that would be good for a first checkpoint. I think the second checkpoint is fantastic, actually. It is very difficult. It took me a little bit of time, but after the hell zone, that was, get it? The hell zone, the GD level? No way, that's crazy. But after the hell zone, that was checkpoint 1. Checkpoint 2, I found very enjoyable, actually. It tested different skills, it had a different mechanics, and it was overall a much more enjoyable experience for me. I think the difficulty of checkpoint 2 is like the perfect difficulty when it comes to this kind of stuff. I thought it was very, very good. And then 10 years down the line, we get to checkpoint 3, and this one is probably super easy. Checkpoint 3, 4, 5 are not that bad. They're pretty easy, pretty simple. All they really do is check out your precision and a little bit of movement tech. The very first jump in checkpoint 3 is literally just hold to the right, but don't go so far that you hit the top spike that you're supposed to land under. And then you jump over to the next side, you go, hit the pink orbs, waddle up on the pink orbs, and then from the pink orbs, you have to like jump, but not too much. So you hit the spike at the top and then land on the platform, jump in between, go up, and then rinse and repeat. Now, I will say the checkpoints do have kind of silly hitboxes. You can hit the checkpoint of checkpoint 4 and die on the spike. And you could also, on checkpoint 1, actually, do a jump early and just bonk onto the side and hit the second checkpoint without actually landing on top of the platform. And it will just spawn you on top of the platform. So there can be hitbox abuse in this that will just be more convenient. But overall, checkpoint 3 was pretty easy. It's just a matter of like getting used to the feel of moving back and forth on stuff, right? Checkpoint 4 is also not too bad. There's one very precise jump at the very beginning, and then the last string of jumps is kind of hard because it's very easy to just like hit the tiny spikes. But overall, these jumps are just not all that difficult, and I think that was very nice to play. I think if it wasn't for the fact that checkpoint 2, 3, 4, 5 were as manageable as they were, I would probably never have beaten this, just because of the fact that checkpoint 1 and then soon I will be covering checkpoint 6 just absolutely railed me in the worst way possible. If anything, if it was as hard as checkpoint 1 throughout the entire thing, I would probably never have beaten this because of the fact that it just did not feel manageable whatsoever. As for checkpoint 5, it is completely fine, honestly. One thing that checkpoint 5 really does well to teach you is that it teaches you momentum with the jump. One thing that I found personally very difficult to manage with the robot jumps is that when you jump, when you start holding to the side, the acceleration is very hard to control. And I think checkpoint 5 does a decent job at helping you with that, especially with the final jump in the little staircase here, where you have to jump up and then go to the right to land on that ledge. But it's so easy to just go early and then hit the bottom spike, or just go late and then hit the top spike. So finding that like perfect middle ground is very difficult, and I think this one did a decent job at learning that. And especially in the staircase itself as well, you kind of have to figure out when you can start holding to the side without hitting the spike. And it is a very unique challenge in a way. I thought it was very difficult, but at the same time, you get so much better at it with time. You become pretty fast at it, and it's very nice. And then halfway through checkpoint 5, you do start landing in between spikes, and we all love some good old hitbox manipulation with jumper dash. That is one of the absolute classics of GD. Hitbox manipulation. Yes, we love hitbox manipulation. That is my favorite, and I feel like platformer mode is going to have a lot of that. Like, there's just going to be a ton of hitbox manipulation, and I think this is pretty evident of it. Once you get to checkpoint 6, it is hell. I think personally the absolute hardest mechanic for me to master with platformer mode so far is landing on corner. Landing on corners, like Shardscape style, is so absurdly difficult, and I found it so insanely hard to do the ladder. I died to the last click at the top of the ladder 28 times, and it was the most difficult thing for me. I don't know why. I can't really tell you why. I've seen a lot of people play this afterwards, and they're just not struggling with the staircase at all. I found it super hard. And the first jump as well, I think like half my attempts probably got eaten by the first jump, where you have to jump in between the two spikes, land on top of the corner, and then jump over. I just could not find my timing to always land on that corner, and I would go like 20, 30 attempts in a row, just not being able to do it. So doing 30 attempts to land on that corner and then jumping in between the spikes to then get an attempt to the ladder was just so brutal for me, and I can't really tell why. Probably because I suck at platformers. I'm gonna be real with you. Definitely because I'm just bad at platformers. But I find it really tough, and it was one of the checkpoints I spent the longest time. I think it was the second longest time I spent on any checkpoint after checkpoint 1. Then we get to checkpoint 7, which in all honesty is not all too bad. From checkpoint 5 again, you get the same thing where you have to like kind of like maneuver your way through and just be aware of the hitboxes. I've seen people do the first jump in 1 where you just jump up and then go in between the spikes and then land. I personally found it easier to jump on the backside of the spike, land on it, and then jump over the spike again, and then just land in between at the bottom. And then the next few jumps are very easy ones until you get to the pink orb. After the pink orb, that jump right there is ridiculously hard. This is one of those checkpoints, in my opinion, that is very easy except for like 2 clicks, and one of those clicks happens to be at the very end, making it so that, and very beginning, makes it so that you never really get a chance, so it still takes a long time. The first jump, very difficult, and then the third to last jump, also very difficult. But overall, this one just kind of like tests your momentum control that you have been training up over the past 3 rooms, right? So once you get here, you should have a decent understanding of how platformer works, and you shouldn't really have that hard of a time anymore, and I think that's nice. As for checkpoint 8, this is probably the easiest checkpoint in the entire level, I think. I did not struggle with this one at all somehow. I beat this room in like 5 minutes, which is easily the fastest I got it. The first few jumps are super easy, except for jump number 2, where you go in between those spikes, because again, it is just being aware of the hitboxes, right? You just have to be aware of the hitboxes. It's not too bad. and you jump over, land on the corner, go up, and then it's easy peasy the entire way through. You can do the triangle jumps, the Triforce jumps in 2 different ways. I did it where I just landed on the side of the Triforce, jumped up, and then landed in between. A lot of people also jump to the left onto that corner so that you can get a little bit of a hop over. Kind of just goes down to personal preference. But overall, this room, or this room is pretty easy, I would say. But then we get to room number 5, where things become hell on earth. This room is so difficult, like so difficult. I can't really put my finger on why, but there's so many precise jumps. The first jump where you have to go in between the spikes, stupid. And you have to land on the corner after going in between those spikes, also stupid hard. Then it's just a little bit of maneuvering until you have to get in between these spikes. The spike mouths thingies that occur like throughout the entire everything are just so obscenely difficult. And I don't really know how or why. And probably the only reason I'm not going to be a top platformer player by any means is because of maneuvers like this. I find them so genuinely hard. But after a while, you do get very consistent. And then this green orb that is actually a pink orb, however, it uses a funny filter, is dumb. You have to hit the pink orb, land on the backside of the spike, and that is so hard. And I think this one singular click showed how insanely rough around the edges the slippery nature of the physics are with platformer mode, because 8 individual times I would jump from the pink orb, land on backside of the corner, all good, very awesome, I land on it, perfect, and then like half a second later I would still have slight movements from the slipperiness of the robot's momentum, and I would just fall off, right? Like I would just like slowly but surely scoot over from the corner and just fall down and hit the spike and die. And it was genuinely infuriating because I made the jump. I made the hard jump. But because of the slipperiness, I would just, right? That was just rough. That was brutal. Very brutal. And then we get to checkpoint number 10, which isn't all too bad. The only hard part about checkpoint 10 really is the first 4 jumps. And these first 4 jumps are genuinely so hard. I got decent at them towards the end, and thankfully the second half of checkpoint 10 is not that difficult. I didn't really struggle with it that much. I think the one thing that really makes some of the checkpoints really hard is the fact that they have a really hard first jump and then a really hard last jump. So you either get nowhere or get really far and then you die, and then it's just, right? You're just done. Checkpoint 10, however, I think the first 4 jumps are probably the hardest jumps in the entire level for me. Or after the first 4 jumps, doesn't have a really hard last jump, unlike the other checkpoints, meaning that it felt easier to beat this checkpoint. You make it through the 4 hardest clicks, in my opinion, and that is smooth sailing, where you just have to, like, not mess up until the end. And that is the whole level. I will now show you all of my completion attempts, or the checkpoint completion thingies. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of thing. I wanted to do something a little bit different for this because it is a completely different format of levels. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Here's the full thing. Subscribe. Thank you so much. And never again. Yes! Oh my gosh, so happy. That only took legitimately 2 hours. Yes! Okay, thank you. Yes! We're chilling now. Yes. Yes! Oh my god. This jump right here, this one. That one's sketchy, man. Yes! Oh, please. Yes! Thank you! Oh my god. We're in the home stretch now. Yes! Oh my god! Yes! Oh, it's so fucking hard, dude. I actually did it! I needed a screenshot, sorry. I'm gonna make a separate category for platformer levels on Aeon's Demon List because you cannot compare them, right? You can't compare a platformer level to a standard extreme demon. And I think this is such a good example of that because I've seen so many people be like, this is insane demon. But in my eyes, this is like probably the same difficulty as Titan Complex. Like for me, it is that genuinely difficult, right? Like this is super hard. I struggle with this so much. I think this is like Titan Complex difficulty, dude. What was the last level? Like 5.8k, just for like frame of reference, right? That's so hard, man. I'm so happy with myself though. I'm actually so genuinely proud over the fact that I managed to do this because I actually did not think I was going to be able to. There was such a long stretch of time. I actually did not think I was going to be able to do this. I'm so happy I managed to do it. Oh, that's so satisfying.